Yep, that is indeed me playing The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the first time. That is the footage you are getting since it's taken straight from my stream of playing the whole game. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over my thoughts and opinions of that first time playthrough of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So with that all being said, what is up guys, Jen here, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Got your called timestamps down below in the description, so if you want to skip to a certain section, feel free to do so. All I ask is you to support the channel, hit the like button, and if you want to stick around for some more awesome content, then please consider hitting that subscribe button. So, this isn't my first rodeo with The Legend of Zelda. I'm starting off this venture slow and steady. I have a video in the top right corner of my first time playthrough of A Link to the Past. So if you want the brief history on how I got into this and why I'm doing this, watch that video, then come back to this one and we can rock on with Ocarina of Time. But I've been thoroughly enjoying my journey with The Legend of Zelda series. And I'm going to ask the question straight off the bat. Now that I've done A Link to the Past and I've done Ocarina of Time, where should I go next? Let me know in the comment section down below. But let's get into Ocarina of Time itself. The reason I wanted to play this is because, again, I didn't grow up as a Nintendo kid. I grew up a Sega kid and then went over to the Sony PlayStation. But as I was playing my favorite game of all time, Final Fantasy VII, I heard of this other game on the Nintendo 64, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and I never got around to it until today. Now, you're probably asking, Jen, what version did you play? Did you play it on Nintendo Switch Online? Did you get a GameCube out of the attic, dust it off and play it on there? Or did you play the 3DS version? Well, I actually played a PC decompilation called The Ship of Ocarina or something along those lines. The reason I did this is because I'm aware that games in the late 90s, especially the 3D games, have aged, and that can become a problem, and I didn't want that to jeopardize my experience with what has been told to me a great game of all time. So it was only natural for me to go and play a PC decompilation, which it pretty much is on par with what you'd experience. You get the whole experience, but it gives you modern controls, HD graphics, 60 frames per second, and everything else in between, like you can see in the footage you're seeing. Because I didn't want to go play the Nintendo 64 version because I've seen the look of that controller and it scares me just looking at it, and then give up on the game because I can't get on with the controls. So having a version that gives me modern controls allows me to just dive in and see what the game is all about. And I do advise this for anyone that's trying to old game for the first time. If there is a version out there that has modern controls, has been modded to some capacity, then go for it. I always urge people that play Final Fantasy VII for the first time to go get the Steam version, download the mods, because you'll get that experience that I got in the late 90s, but in a modern capacity. So that's where we are with this one. So let's dive in to the story and the characters of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I've got to say straight off the bat, when it comes to the story of Ocarina of Time, I really wasn't that interested. I know that we start off a child, we age, and then we defeat Ganondorf. That is kind of just the vibe. I was more in for the gameplay, but there wasn't anything that made me think this is not great. I just didn't get into it all too much, though I do remember that goddamn owl. So let's move on to the most important thing, and probably the best thing for me, and that is the gameplay. And I'm going to start off with what I like to start off as always, is the exploration. Now, the exploration of Ocarina of Time somehow takes the exploration that I experienced in The Link to the Past and brings it to a 3D space almost perfectly. Like, your curiosity is rewarded. There are things around, there are secrets to find, NPCs to interact with that give you clues, so many side quests as well, and you were rewarded with your exploration, and there were many distractions along the way. Eventually I did decide saying, hey, I want to golden path this and roll credits, but I think this is a game I would love to go back to and 100%, because there's so many bells and whistles to find, so many secret passages for heart containers, or there may be some rupees, there may be some enemies to beat, there may be some skull towers to find to then trade in for extras as well. It's everywhere, and that carries on into the temples and the dungeons as well, but we'll go into that in a little bit later. But exploration is really good, and it holds up really well and can be considered quite a high bar even compared to games with exploration in this day and age. Ocarina of Time brings it all to the table. Of course, there's many shops and mini games. There was many times I was trying to hit rupees with a bow and arrow and failing. There were many times where I was throwing bombs and rolling like a bowling alley. There's so many little nooks and crannies in this game for you to expand that experience. There's shops to go to trade in for more items. You get acquainted with a lot of stuff, both as a child and as an adult. I should have probably mentioned that at the beginning, but you play as child Link and you play as adult Link in this game, and you can venture back and forth at a certain part in the game, and that really kind of hooks into exploration and just this kind of nature of how Ocarina of Time works. You'll unlock more abilities and go back to previous places to unlock more abilities. Maybe there's something that doesn't quite work in the future, but you need to do something in the past, and I really do like the way that all works. Again, it much warrants a second playthrough for ones that have not 100%ed Ocarina of Time. So let's touch on the dungeons. The main attraction here are the temples. You venture through many temples, the Wind Temple, the Water Temple, of which I will say now took me longer to find the way in as opposed to how long it took me to go through that. And I've heard many horror stories about the Water Temple of actually being inside there, but I really enjoyed my time inside the Water Temple. It was getting in and figuring out what I had to do to get in that was the problem, but I didn't give in. I didn't let chat tell me what to do. I was like, I need to figure this out for myself. I did ask a few questions to eliminate any wasted time or opportunities that I was doing, but they were very kind and we got in that Water Temple eventually. But the actual temples themselves all follow the same traits of what you've experienced before in the Link to the Past, and you kind of get the map, you kind of get the general senses of where you need to go. It's all about how you're gonna get there. How are you gonna get there? You need to go to a certain room, you need to do a quick challenge to unlock a key, use that key to get into another room, try and decipher how to defeat certain enemies. Is there a room that you went to previously that might have another secret in there? There's so many questions you're asking yourself internally, and again it falls into the same thing that I felt with the exploration. I'm constantly rewarded for my curiosity, and I'm rewarded for my quick thinking, my maybe not so quick thinking, but eventually getting to what I need to get to, really thinking hard and being like, aha, that's what I've got to do, it paying off, and then get into the next room. I can really take a moment and say that I can see why this is considered to be one of the greatest games of all time, because I got to experience it in 2025 and it was really enjoyable. Now we move on to the combat of Ocarina of Time, and this was the thing that I was mostly scared of by using the Nintendo Switch Online version or using an old Nintendo 64 controller along those lines, is just not getting on with the combat. But the configuration settings that I had with my PS5 controller made combat really enjoyable, switching back and forth from first person, locking onto enemies, dodging, doing charge attacks and everything else in between, including using my bow and arrow, throwing bombs at the right time for certain enemies. It was a joy. Sometimes a little bit frustrating with some enemy attack patterns, but that's mostly on me trying to just defeat them as quick as possible. I really think that if I did play one of those older versions, that my complaint would probably be the controls, the camera controls, but this version of the game, this PC decompilation, really helped make that experience feel modern, feel like this game was recently re-released for people like me to experience for the first time, and I really did enjoy that. And that follows through into the bosses. Some of these bosses are very unique. I had a moment against one of the bosses where I was like, what do I do here? They keep firing something at me and I don't know what to do. And then I had an aha moment of when I played A Link to the Past of deflecting it with a sword strike at the right time, and I was like, nah, surely they're not gonna do this here, are they? And lo and behold, that's what I had to do, and it was so damn satisfying. Combat, especially with these modern control settings, really set the pace and really made things come full circle for me while playing through Ocarina of Time. Moving on from combat, I want to talk about the side stuff. We've mentioned it with the mini games, but there is a lot of things to do here if you want to get 100% completion. I did not get everything. I didn't get all of the items. There were things that I missed. There were school tellers that I didn't find, and they're everywhere. They really take some serious thinking, and you probably will need to resort to a guide to find them all, but I tried to find them all naturally. I found quite a number of them to kind of have a checklist and tick them off. Collecting all of the songs, I think there was a song that I missed. I did have seen in the trailers riding a horse. I never got to ride a horse in this game, so that's another thing that I missed out on. And then there's the songs themselves. My memory is really poor. Like, my memory just did not work with me every time. It's like, oh, I need to return to the Temple of Time. I need to play this song. I played the wrong song. I changed the weather. Or I needed to go to a certain temple. Right, I need to go back to near the water temple. Let's play this song. Oh my god, I'm back at the wind temple. Why am I here? My memory for those songs were horrible. The controls in this version of the game made it even easier to get to use them on the control pad, but my memory just failed me at left, right, and center. But that is nothing on the game. That's on me trying to remember all of these button imprompts. But I can see some of these songs living rent-free in my head from now on, and you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. This would be a perfect transition to talk about the music. Now, the music of Ocarina of Time to me wasn't memorable. It's kind of on par with the story, I think. Music and the story of this game for me was just like, not very memorable at all. There's not any tracks that I could pull out and be like, hey, there was a few weird tracks here, there, and everywhere that I was like, well, this has got a certain vibe to it. But all in all, it's an okay soundtrack. Maybe I need to listen through the soundtrack isolated without any gameplay and really get a feel of what that soundtrack's about, but there wasn't anything memorable here for me in Ocarina of Time. So all in all, when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, I really can see why this is considered one of the greatest games of all time. The amount of fun and the amount of pleasure I got of playing this game, especially in front of an audience that respected that it was my first time and they were there when I needed them and they were rallying me on and getting GGs when I solved something on my own, and probably wasted about 3 hours of their time trying to get into one temple. But it was an experience nonetheless that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm glad that I chose to experience it the way I did. And my advice and my words of wisdom, I guess you could say, to anyone thinking of playing Ocarina of Time for the first time, probably go and play the Ship of Ocarina version, the decompilation of the, I think it's the GameCube version maybe, or it might be the Nintendo 64 version, I don't know. But the fact that you get to customize these controls, there are a few bug fixes that have helped out with camera controls, and just a few things that were wrong in the original versions of Ocarina of Time are fixed as well. And there are loads of little bells and whistles to really make it into like a challenge mode. There's a randomizer. There's so much fun that can be had with this, and I really do advise checking it out. But I am glad that I finally got to experience Ocarina of Time. It's another Legend of Zelda game I get to tick off my list, and I'm ready for the next one. So let me know, have you played Ocarina of Time? Is there any advice you'd like to give to me after watching this video? Are you glad that I finally got to experience this game, and where do you think I should go next? So many questions, so little time, but I appreciate your time. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you want more content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.